Welcome to the Trebl Top 10, where we count down the top 10 best things to happen in soccer. In honor of the World Cup, we decided to do something special. We have the top 10 most shocking moments in World Cup history. My name is Louis, and I'm joined here by intern Mikey.
You know what it is, World Cup year. Who's going to win, Louis?
Brazil. If Brazil doesn't win, I might cry. I'm going to knock on wood, because nothing can be worse than the last World Cup. Because that was heartbreaking. So I'm keeping my spirits up. Brazil's got a phenomenal team. I'm going to hope that I'm not wrong, that it can't be worse than last time. So, that being said, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the little bell for the notifications to never miss out on an episode. At number 10, you have what is called the Battle of Nuremberg. This happened during the 2006 World Cup in Germany. This match holds the record for the most cards shown in a single game. There were 16 yellow cards and 4 red cards. Some say it was one of the most violent games in the history of football. This was the most cards given in any game ever.
16 cards is fucking nuts.
No, 16 yellows and 4 reds. So a total of 20 different cards were shown.
There's 22. What? There's 22 people on the field.
Let's see how it went down. All that being said, I forgot to mention the two teams. It was Portugal versus the Netherlands during the 2006 World Cup in Nuremberg. There were tackles flying left and right, deliberate handballs in the air, and then things just got chippy. Players were just beating the absolute living crap out of each other, and it was terrible.
It's ridiculous. Oh my god.
You have players fighting left and right, people feigning injury. These two teams had some of the best players in the world at the time. You had Luis Figo, you had all these amazing players on the Dutch team, and they were just, it was like a schoolyard game where just people were just beating the crap out of each other. You got even the coaches jumping in on it. You know, a lot of people make fun of refs saying that like they have to control a game, but the ref is controlling the game. He's showing the cards he needs to be showing, but they're just getting chippy. Like, how do you keep controlling a team when you're giving out these cards, yet players are still doing this kind of stuff?
If I was the ref that day, I would retire right after.
I wonder what happened to him, because imagine having to ref this game. Like, a lot of times refs are reluctant to give cards because they don't want to like influence the game too much. Man, this must have been a headache to have to deal with. You're on the biggest stage, you're on the World Cup, the entire world is watching you, and you just have everybody getting in on it, from the coach to the staff to the players to everybody just fighting left and right.
It's crazy, dude.
At number 9, we had France versus West Germany in the 1982 World Cup. This match was infamous because of what the German goalkeeper Schumacher did to France's forward Battiston. So the ball comes to Battiston right here, and as he's coming on, Schumacher just takes him out completely. He jumps up and hits him with essentially his butt, and he knocks out Battiston.
Did he get a card for this?
That is the most insane part about the whole thing, Michael. He didn't get a card. It wasn't considered a foul. Battiston lost 3 teeth, had a fractured vertebrae, and was knocked unconscious during this play. Yet it was a goal kick for West Germany.
What?
The ball went out on the byline, and it was considered a goal kick for Germany.
That's ridiculous.
Yet Battiston had to be taken off on a stretcher from Schumacher just jumping at him with his ass.
Should have been a red.
Should have been a straight red, and he should have been sent off. This incident is notorious in the history of football because it was one of these moments that were just, everybody was incredulous that it happened. The ref didn't call anything. He just called it goal kick, which is absurd. Yet he sends the guy to the hospital, knocks him unconscious, and knocks his teeth in.
Crazy. But if that was to happen in our time right now, that would be...
Oh, it would have been a straight red, and there would have been fights erupting. I don't know how he got away with it. I don't know how anyone didn't come up to him and just started strangling him or something.
Exactly, it's crazy.
I don't know how the French players didn't go over and try to kill the guy, because he tried to kill Battiston with his ass. He
almost killed him.
The flying butt.
Flying cheeks. It's ridiculous how that ref did nothing about that.
And look at this, just a goal kick, and he's just ready to go.
Like nothing ever happened.
Just like as if nothing ever happened. At number 8 is Luis Suarez. But I am cheating a little bit, the same way that he cheated quite a bit. So I'm putting 2 of Luis Suarez's incidents together to make my number 8 on my top 10. Sue me if you don't like it. So like I said, there were 2 incidents that happened. The first one was in the 2010 World Cup. Luis Suarez's Uruguay were playing against Ghana. It was the dying minutes of the game, and a corner ensues, and Luis Suarez finds himself on the goal line, and this is what happens. Luis Suarez strikes the ball off the goal line to keep Uruguay in the game. He gets shown a red card, he's sent off, and in the ensuing penalty kick, this happens. He skies the ball, and Uruguay advance. Luis Suarez is the savior for Uruguay, but the rest of the world starts to hate him, especially Ghana fans.
Louis, do you blame him though?
Not at all. I am 100% in agreement with him that that's what he should have done. Especially because Uruguay ended up winning the game and moved on in the World Cup. Sure, he got suspended, he got vilified and all of that, but he put his country on the line and he sacrificed himself to allow them to continue on.
Whatever it takes, right?
It's almost heroic in a weird way.
Yeah.
And then 4 years later, he does this. 70th minute, Uruguay and Italy. Luis Suarez tries to go into the box and bites Giorgio Chiellini on the shoulder. This is in the 79th minute of a World Cup game, and Luis Suarez bites Giorgio Chiellini. And don't forget that Chiellini's the one defending Luis Suarez. So Luis Suarez comes at him to bite him. And they're sitting there, everyone's arguing. Watch what happens right here. He's coming up, puts his shoulder out, Luis Suarez gets mad and bites him like some kind of weird rabid dog. I don't know what goes through the head of someone to bite another human being during a World Cup game, but it was just absurd. And this wasn't the first time he bit someone. No, this was the third time Luis Suarez had bit someone in a game.
How did you get away with that 3 times?
I just don't know how you can attempt that 3 different times in your career. Like, what? My question is, what was he hoping to do?
What goes through your mind when you're like, I'm just gonna bite him?
I don't know. What's the end result? Like, what's the point of him biting Chiellini? What was gonna happen? He was gonna bite Chiellini, and Chiellini was just gonna have to leave. Like, what did he think was gonna happen? Of course, he was gonna get sent off.
Maybe get in his head.
I guess, but he got sent off. So why did it matter?
I give it to Luis Suarez though. So he does whatever it takes.
Yeah, but here's where the 2 instances differ. In the first one, he rescued Uruguay. In this one, he looks stupid. He's just trying to bite a guy.
Yeah, you're right. It's a 0-0 game. He could probably have helped maybe score 1. He got sent off.
Yeah, and that's the part that really baffles me is that he is one of the top 20 players in the world. Is that safe to say? Like when he's on his day,
yeah,
one of the best players in the world. He can change a game. So why would he do something stupid like this and bite someone to get sent off? You know what I mean? The game is 0-0. He can still make an impact, yet he just bites a guy.
Exactly.
I don't get it.
It's ridiculous.
Needless to say, both of those moments were incredibly shocking and were ingrained in our skulls for just the absurdity of it. At number 7, you have Roberto Baggio during the 1994 World Cup final. Now, I was 1 year old at the time, but from everything that I've read, from everything I've watched, Roberto Baggio was the man for Italy. He had an astounding 1994 tournament. He was basically dragging Italy by the scruff of the neck alone. He was by far one of their best players. He was playing out of his mind. He was going to be put into the history books as one of the best Italian players ever. Unfortunately for him, this is what happened. World Cup final between Brazil and Italy, and it goes to a penalty shootout. He has to make this or else Brazil win. And don't forget, pause, Roberto Baggio, talisman of the Italian national team at the time. Essentially, probably the best player at this World Cup. So, you think, perfectly fine, he's going to step it up, he's going to hit this penalty to continue the penalty kicks to keep giving Italy a chance.
That's what he does.
And Roberto Baggio skies it. And it wasn't close. But Roberto Baggio skying this penalty kick was what gave Brazil their 4th World Cup. And just look at the scenes. This was at the Rose Bowl in LA where, the 1994 Brazil team wasn't the most technically gifted team that Brazil's ever produced. They weren't the most skillful, but they were scrappy and very defensive. They were probably the one team that didn't really seem to match up with what people think of as a Brazilian team. And everyone said that this was Italy's tournament. It was supposed to be Roberto Baggio's tournament. Yet at the most crucial moment, Roberto Baggio choked. He didn't get it on frame. The goalkeeper didn't save it. Nothing. He just skied the penalty.
Look, can we just look at something? Look at the level of excitement from the Brazilian coaches.
There are people doing cartwheels.
Look, yes, if you look very closely right here, he just goes ahead and does the little flip and celebrates.
In front of a packed Rose Bowl, too. It was full. And I also don't know how they were wearing jackets in the middle of summer in Los Angeles, but they are insane to be doing that. I, at one point, wanted to do a episode on the top 10 hairstyles at the World Cup, and I was going to put Roberto Baggio probably at number 7 or something like that, because he was rocking this weird mullet that didn't really make sense. It didn't come from the top of his head. It didn't come from the bottom. It came from like the middle of the back of his head, and it was just in a small little area for a ponytail. You know, business up front, party in the back, I guess, but...
That's not the type of party I want to be at. No way.
At number 6, we have the Netherlands versus West Germany in the 1990 World Cup. A lot of people say that one of the most fierce international rivalries are between the Dutch and Germany in general. They faced each other so many times in the World Cup. They've played finals against each other, with Germany usually coming out the victor, especially in the finals, as exemplified by the fact that Germany has 4 World Cups and the Dutch have 0. It was a fiercely contested knockout stage game in the World Cup, and things got a little heated between Frank Rijkaard and Rudi Voller, to the point where Frank Rijkaard lost his shit and spit on Rudi Voller. So you have Rudi Voller with the ball here. He gets tackled by Frank Rijkaard. Rudi Voller gets pretty pissed off. He must have yelled something. He must have called his mom a whore or something. I have no idea. Rijkaard gets up, goes to get into his face. He goes, "Hey, the ref called it. Why are you complaining? Why are you bitching?" And they're starting to go back and forth at it. I'm assuming Rijkaard gets the yellow card. So then, as they're walking away, he's like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. I shouldn't be getting a yellow card." He gets a little annoyed or whatever. I'm assuming Voller kept saying something, or I don't even know. But here comes Rijkaard running right behind Voller. Here he is, and he just hawks a huge loogie into the back of Rudi Voller's hair. I don't even know how to describe it.
His Jerry curls.
His little Jerry curls. He just hawks a loogie into his Jerry curls. And Rudi Voller he is incredulous that just happened. He looks at him and he goes, "Wait, what?" And he just realizes right there, he goes, "Did this motherfucker really just spit at me?" And he loses it. So then he starts pointing at him and he goes, "Hey!" Or whatever he said in German, I have no idea. But they get into each other's faces, and Jurgen Klinsmann has to try and separate them up, and Frank Rijkaard's like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And he keeps complaining to the ref,
Doesn't even brush it out of his hair.
He keeps trying to show him that it happened. And then I'm assuming that Rudi Voller got a yellow for, that's what he just gave him, right? A yellow for complaining, I guess. So he got a yellow for dissent because he's yelling at the ref. And then the game continues. The ball comes in. Rudi Voller goes to attack it. Right here, the goalkeeper comes out. Rudi Voller misses him, but he basically tries to hit the keeper. Rijkaard gets pissed that he's trying to dig a foul here. Goes down, grabs him by the neck, and pulls his hair. The Dutch keeper comes over and tries to pull Rijkaard away. And he's just like, whatever. Rijkaard's just be like, "Yo, you bitch, get off the floor, stop diving, blah, blah, blah." And then, I don't even know what that was. Rudi Voller looked like he wanted to maybe dive and pretend like he got pushed. But either way, Rijkaard gets sent off, Voller gets sent off.
I mean, they both deserve to get sent off.
They did both deserve it. And so then, it's not over. It doesn't end there. So as they're both walking off, here they are, they both just got sent off. Jurgen Klinsmann's like, "Really, guys? What the fuck?" Look at him again. He spits another loogie in Voller's hair. I don't know what goes through these people's minds, but these were two of the best players in the world at the time. Rijkaard had played for some amazing teams. He had won, Champions Leagues with Ajax and Barcelona and all these crazy things. And Voller was one of the best players in Germany at the time. Yet, I don't know why they decided to descend into madness during this game, but it provided one of the most disgusting moments in World Cup history, and also just gross. At number 5, we have the 1998 World Cup final. This is one of those insane stories that it's so difficult to understand. So, in 1998, Ronaldo and the Brazilian team were looking phenomenal. They looked like they were going to repeat as defending champions of the World Cup. And Ronaldo was on fire. He had just won his first Best Player in the World award. This tournament, he was lighting it up at every single game. He was killing it. And so, what happened? The night before the World Cup final, Ronaldo has a seizure. And his teammates find him, and he had blacked out and just had a seizure. No one knows what caused it. No one knows why it happened. game time comes up very quickly, and they're saying that Ronaldo's not on the team sheet. And everyone's like, oh no, this is awful. How are Brazil going to beat France without Ronaldo? At the time, France had, Zinedine Zidane, some of the best French players ever on the 98 team. And so everyone was like, wow, what's going on? And there's a really cool clip on the internet of the announcers for the game. This is, 15 minutes before the game's about to start. The announcers are going through their pre-game things on TV, and they're talking about the team sheet and talking about which players are in each lineup. And they get news that, they're looking at the lineup where there's no Ronaldo. And then all of a sudden, the Brazilian managers, I guess, made a change, and they get noticed that Ronaldo is going to play the World Cup final. But this is, within 10 minutes of the game about to kick off, Ronaldo gets put into the lineup. And unfortunately, what happened next, it was a very strange sight. So with Ronaldo in the team, France ended up coming out and beating them very easily. France won 3-0. The Brazil team looked a shell of its former self. They seemed like every player was playing scared. Every player was just off their game. No one was playing well. This is weird because you'd think, like, okay, your superstar is back in the lineup. You'd think, all right, that's going to be enough of a reason for them to win. But some of the players gave interviews afterwards, especially Roberto Carlos. He said that the entire Brazil team were scared, and he especially was scared that his friend Ronaldo. So what ended up happening was Ronaldo walks into the dressing room right before the game is about to start, and the head coach is addressing the rest of the players. They're all sitting there basically doing their pre-game talk, and Ronaldo just strolls in saying, I'm playing. And Zagallo, the coach at the time, was like, what do you mean? Like, you just had a fit, you had a seizure, you're not fit to play. He's like, no, put me in the lineup, I'm good to go. And then they let him play. The mental effect it had on the rest of the players just caused them to lose it. And no player played well, and it was just a relatively easy win for France in a World Cup final.
When serious things happen like that in the game, it really does take a toll, especially if you have your talisman at the time have a seizure or something unfortunate like that. So it's crazy to see him get back in the lineup, but you know what I mean, it did take a toll on the team. So sad to see what happened, but
at number 4, from one Brazilian disappointment to another, we have what I consider to be one of the worst days of my life. And in 2014, Brazil loses 7-1 to Germany. Now, it really pained me to put these clips on this video because, like I said, it was one of the worst days of my life. I sat and stared at a blank TV after the game was over for an hour and a half without moving, trying to contemplate everything that I had seen during this game. But why did it happen? Brazil were at home. They were favorites to win the tournament at home. Everybody in Brazil were rooting for them. They were going to finally dispel the ghosts of 1950. In 1950, Brazil hosted the World Cup. They were also favorites, and they lost in the final to Uruguay in the Maracanã. They would then be known as the Maracanazo, which was one of the worst moments of World Cup history. A team hosting at home, favorites, and losing in front of 200,000 people. And then in 2014, very similar situation. They are favorites to win at home. They have a really good team. They have Neymar, who's phenomenal in this tournament. Every single game up to this, Neymar had been amazing. Until they play Colombia, and Zuniga knees Neymar in the back and I think he cracked one of his vertebrae or something, but Neymar was out. On top of it, Thiago Silva was also hurt in that game, and going into this Germany game, the Brazil team was without their best player and their captain. So they were without Neymar, and they were without Thiago Silva, and this team just fell apart. Let's just roll the clip, I guess. This is it
oh man.
I'm not making up my reactions. I'm not doing this for YouTube. I can't watch these videos, and I'm actually kind of happy I'm facing the camera and not this, because it was such a difficult game to sit through as a Brazil fan, and it just it's so frustrating to think about what could have been at home and what it would have meant to all the Brazilians if Brazil hadn't completely shit the bed and just done this ridiculous instance. I don't have any words for this. It was just You were literally, I remember watching this thinking like, oh, okay, cool, we're going to give up, maybe 2 or 3, lose, and that's it. And the goals kept coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming. And it was all within like an 11-minute period, I believe. So all of these goals were happening one after another, after another, and after another. And the Brazil team couldn't seem to pick themselves up. They just didn't have the energy. I don't know what it was. They
gave up.
They gave up. They were mentally weak, and they just cracked under all the pressure and lost 7-1. This is known as one of the most embarrassing defeats. This wasn't like, Haiti versus Portugal or Haiti, like some tiny little country versus another country. These are two of the world's best international teams. This shouldn't happen. It should have been a hotly contested 1-1, 1-0 win or something, but for them to just be embarrassed like this is just...
It's a meme.
It's literally a meme, and it's one of the things that I can never wrap my head around.
I'll never forget this day, being in Brazil on this day, watching this.
You guys almost went to the game, didn't you?
I almost went to the game, but we decided not to and watch at home and save the money. And thank God I didn't go that day.
So give them a little backstory. You had gone to Brazil with my family, and you were hanging out there.
Yep. I'm not Brazilian, so I went to Brazil for the World Cup, thinking that Brazil was going to be the favorite because they were the favorite, and I thought I was going to be there to celebrate another Brazilian World Cup win. And I remember sitting in front of a TV outside watching all of this unfold and thinking to myself, wow, my vacation is ruined as it just started.
And, I mean, the scenes in Brazil during this World Cup were absurd. Every time Brazil would score a goal, the entire country would just erupt. It's just like everybody in Brazil, soccer means so much to them. And to have something completely opposite, unexpected happen was just, it was embarrassing. Moving on to number 3, we have Diego Maradona. The videos I'm about to show you encapsulate Maradona's career perfectly. It was the 1982 World Cup. I didn't want to write Argentina versus England because it was literally Maradona versus England, because he scored both goals and he was the one who took control of this match. So let's play it and we'll talk it through. Argentina ended up winning this game and Maradona scored 2. One of his goals is widely considered to be one of the best goals ever scored in the history of football. The balls went back and forth. Argentina, I believe, were favorites at this World Cup in 1982. And this was super controversial. So Diego Maradona picks up the ball here. He makes a pass. This ball comes up. He goes up for it, and he punches the ball in. This was crazy. He walks away celebrating, and all of the England players think that they were going to call the card. They all looked at the ref as in like, oh, it's fine. He was offsides, and he handled it. The England players are furious. They go up to the ref, and he says he didn't see it. The weirdest part about the whole goal is that Maradona is maybe 5'4", 5'5". He's not a very tall guy. And Peter Shilton, the goalkeeper for England, I think he was like 6'4", 6'5", or something like that. Yet Maradona seemed to out-jump him. Like, Peter Shilton should have gotten that ball
easily.
And Maradona comes up, jumps up, and punches it into the goal. And that started to cement his reputation as a little bit of a cheat, a little bit of a dirty player. Especially because after the game, he came out and they asked him, like, hey, like, how did you score that goal? And he goes, it was scored with a little bit of the head of Maradona and a little bit of the hand of God. And so that's where the name came from, the hand of God. And so that would already be enough to find its way on this list as one of the most shocking moments in the World Cup history. But what he did after, which later became known as most likely his best goal that he's ever scored in his career, Maradona managed to do this. And so Maradona does this. He picks up the ball, spins by 2 players, gets it by them, just books it all the way down the wing. No one can stop him. He cuts in between 2 players there, past this guy, another 2 players right there, dribbles the goalkeeper and scores. This is by far one of the most incredible goals ever scored in the World Cup because he single-handedly beat England.
He added salt to that wound too. Oh my God.
And the best part is that, a lot of players would have written him off and would be like, oh, like he's a cheat, he is what he is, whatever, they shouldn't have won. But then he comes out and answers all of those claims with one of the best goals ever scored. And so you can't deny his amazingness. And it's the two sides of Maradona. That's just this. It is who he is. He is forever a controversial figure, but also one of the best to ever play the game.
Exactly. Louis, question for you. Or would you do the same for your country?
I might. I mean, it's the World Cup. You want to make sure your club wins. A lot of people, anybody who tells me that they wouldn't do it is lying. If you're a competitive person, if you want to win, you don't necessarily want to cheat, but he saw it as, I'm a short guy. I'm going up against a very tall guy.
Exactly.
How am I going to be able to touch this ball to get it over him? And so he put his hand up. Sure. Was he cheating? Yes. Should have been a red? Yes. Should the goal not have counted? No. But that's not on him. It was on the ref for not seeing it and not calling it. Why? What would you do?
I would do the same. Like I said, you got to do whatever it takes. And that's what he did. Even if it was illegal, cheating, I'd do the same thing. I wouldn't regret it either.
No. And he ended up winning Argentina a couple World Cups, so he did something right. At number 2, you have the murder of Andres Escobar. You're probably thinking, what does that have to do with the World Cup? Well, Andres Escobar was a defender for Colombia during the 1994 World Cup, and unfortunately, he scored an own goal to essentially knock Colombia out of the World Cup against the United States. And when he went back home to Colombia, they killed him. They found him in the street and they killed him because of the own goal.
Just because of an own goal?
Just because of an own goal, and it knocked him out of the World Cup.
Just goes to show that sometimes soccer really is the most important thing in your country.
And this was in the height of Pablo Escobar, which is a very interesting coincidence between Pablo Escobar and Andres Escobar. But this was at the height of Pablo Escobar's reign in Colombia, and he was a major soccer fan. It was in that height of that insanity during the 90s in Colombia that Escobar was just a soccer player. He was playing the game he loved. He was representing his country with heart, and unfortunately he scored an own goal, and he got back home. I think it was 5 days later they killed him. And it's one of the saddest things to have ever happened as a result of a World Cup, and it really hurts to even think that something that we love so much, like soccer, can lead to so much violence and to take the life of a human being just because of a game.
It's not worth it.
So it was, like I said, it was during the 94 World Cup. Andres Escobar went to clear the ball and just happened to kick it right by his own keeper, and that ended up sending USA through and Colombia crashing out of the World Cup. And it was awful. He gets back home to Colombia, and 5 days later,
he gets murdered.
His life is taken.
It was an accident. He was just trying to get the ball out. You know what I mean? He was doing his job, and unfortunately, he didn't do it.
This is the same thing as if tomorrow you left for work and you made one mistake, and then 5 days later, someone kills you because of it. And it's like, you're doing your job. You didn't do it on purpose. He didn't, intentionally get Colombia kicked out of the World Cup, but he lost his life over it. And it's a terrible, terrible black mark on the history of the World Cup, but it's definitely a shocking moment. At number 1, there was really only one choice for this number, and it was 2006 World Cup final between Italy and France. In other words, Zinedine Zidane's last game as a professional football player. In the 2006 World Cup, Zidane was on fire. He was playing really, really well. It helps get France to the World Cup final. Finally, he's back on the world stage after, 8 years after helping his team win the first World Cup. He's thinking, perfect, I'm going to be able to win this for my country, go out on a high, retire as an absolute legend of the game, 2 World Cups under my belt, one of the best players to ever have lived. And he loses the plot, and he puts a huge blemish on his personal record because he gets sent off in a crucial moment of the World Cup final. So let's see what happened for those of you who don't know what this is. It's in overtime. It's the 17th minute of extra time. The game is tied 1-1, and all they have to do is play another 13 minutes and they'll go to penalties and potentially win it. And so, what happened? Why did the play stop? Well, here it is. Zidane stops playing, stops running, turns around to face Materazzi and headbutts him in the chest. In other words, he does the most insane thing you could possibly think of to another player, and neither of them were even on the ball. There was no foul necessarily committed. The game was still going on. So what caused Zinedine Zidane to lose his shit? You might think, oh, he probably insulted his mother, or he said something. No, it came out that Materazzi insulted Zidane's sister. And it's something so simple. He literally got under Zidane's skin and he loses it. This is one of the best players in the history of the game, the captain of his country, leading them potentially to another World Cup, and loses it. And the entire world is shocked because it came out of nowhere. Zidane was a very classy player. He was elegant. He was a phenomenal example on and off of the pitch, yet commits one of the most heinous fouls in the history of the game in a World Cup final in front of close to 1 billion people watching it. Zidane threw away his chance at a golden opportunity to wrap up his career in the most glowing fashion by lifting in the World Cup trophy one more time. Because Italy ended up winning. France lost. Italy won their 3rd World Cup, or their 4th World Cup.
It's not like he was someone new to the team. He was an established veteran, couldn't be a legend regardless of which, and to see him let someone get under his skin so easily and go out and lash out like that, it's absurd to see.
Unfortunately, that was the end of that, and that was the end of his career, as a player anyway. There you have it. Another amazing episode of the Trebl Top 10. Was there any moments that you think we missed? Were there any that you think we shouldn't have put on here? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and share this video and come back for another awesome World Cup centric episode.